Hello you guys, this is Rachel, the Modern Shaman, and I'm going to take a minute to answer another Q&A question for today. So, before I forget, if you would like to reference this later, you can find me on the YouTube channel, just the Modern Shaman, or you can visit my website to connect with me, which is themodernshaman.net. Okay, so I had a couple people send me private messages asking about specific situations that they were dealing with in communicating with different spirits. And their topics were so similar, and what I was telling one of them, I found myself telling the same thing to the other person. So I felt like I wanted to do a video on this topic because I felt like a lot of people were dealing with kind of a similar issue. Feeling frustrated at not being able to fully communicate with a certain spirit or spirits. So I kind of wanted to title this and encapsulate this topic as how to utilize your specific way of connection to communicate with spirit. And I'm using spirit as a broad term for any past loved ones, or just, any being or entity or group consciousness that you are trying to connect with that's outside of your own consciousness, although it could be your higher self that you're connecting to as well. But typically that's very innate and you know how to communicate. It's the voice in your head. But those outside spirits, for example, if you find yourself new to this and you start to see spirits, or you're starting to be aware of spirits around you, but you're not sure how to talk to them or how to engage in that communication, it's almost like, okay, what do we do? What do I do now? Like, I see them, but where do we go from here? How do I start the conversation? If I don't hear them talking to me, if I'm not clairaudient, how can this back and forth go? So what you do in that instance, this is what I tell my clients as they're developing, and my students as I'm helping them develop their skills, is again to tune into what you're feeling in your own body and how you feel connected to them. If you visually are seeing them there, then you're going to want to use that sight. If you have this feeling like they're there, and a lot of times these overlap. We see them and we feel them. For example, some people also feel certain things in certain areas of their body. Their throat chakra will get really tight. They will feel pressure on their head or their back, or they'll get tingles, or they'll feel things in their physical body, or their stomach will tighten up in certain ways, or they'll feel heat on their body, or they'll feel cold or clammy, or feel like something wet is touching them when nothing is there. Pay attention to those things within your body and then use those as a way to communicate. So for instance, if you feel heat when you're in the presence of a specific entity, you can set that up ahead of time, saying, okay, when I communicate with you, I'm going to ask yes or no questions, and I'd like you to use that form of heat that I feel in my body, and the heat will be a yes, and the cold or just regular temperature of the room or regular temperature of my body will be a no. So you can kind of start this dialogue in your head and pay attention to when you feel heat and when you feel not heat. And so you can use that as a form of communication. Sometimes we have to get very binary with our questions, yes or no, especially when you're starting out and trying to communicate here. You can just get really specific and really clear, and like I said, binary, yes, no. That's why a lot of people like the pendulum, because it's just so yes, no in terms of answers. But also, if you write and you channel that way, you can ask these entities to use your hand to write through or to draw through. somebody suggested that to me with missing person work, to draw maps. And I'm a horrible artist, and so I was like, oh, I can't draw maps. But when I asked them to do that and to set my hand down and ask them to move it, I was just blown away by this drawing of this map. And it wasn't like it was this beautiful piece of art. It was just that it was very clear streets and where intersections and where the houses went, and, very clear directions. So you can ask them to use your hand, or you can write the questions and ask yes or no answers, and then pay attention to how you feel the energy with yes or no's. Or if you again see them, you can ask them to kind of have movement when there's a yes. So move up and down, or make that entity move so it's a yes, and to stand still when the answer is a no. So you can create these forms of communication. Yes or no, again, is the simplest form to start with. Let me see. Oh, sounds also. If you hear sounds, you can set up a certain pitch that will be identified as a symbol for a yes, and a certain pitch that will be identified as a no. When I hear sounds, I feel the sounds in my inner ear. It's like I can feel the size of the sound wave coming in. And when it's a multi-dimensional sound wave, I can feel it expand multi-dimensionally. I don't know how to explain that any other way, but inside my ear canal. And it feels very specific. And so I learned to differentiate messages and who was sending these messages by the subtleties in how the sound waves felt in my ear, and the frequency in which they were vibrating. So that's a strange thing, but because I noticed it, I started paying attention to the subtleties in it, and again creating a kind of symbolic association with, okay, that feels different. The frequency of that feels different than this. And so I was able to see, okay, this is more galactic energy. It's multidimensional. It's interdimensional. Like I said, how the frequencies feel like they're expansive versus just vertical sound waves when I'm talking to, say, an angelic entity or whatnot. So anyways, that's another way with sounds. See if I can think of anything else. Colors. If you see colors, you can use those as symbols. You can set specific colors to mean yes or no. You can set specific colors to mean certain emotions. So, that's kind of what auras and knowing of subtle bodies and energy bodies and things. But just use what you see and how you experience spirit. If you don't see, how you feel spirit, or how you hear spirit, or how your body changes when you're around spirit, or smells or whatnot, and set up kind of a symbolic way to communicate. Like I said, get binary, yes or no, and start your communication that way. I hope that's helpful to you. Be blessed.